Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to give everyone a minute or two to log in, get settled, and before we kind of welcome and start the program today. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. If you want to put in the chat where you are joining us from today, feel free to do so at this time so we can kind of see where everyone is joining us from. Great, Irvine from California. I'm from California, that's awesome. Hudson, Ohio, Cleveland, Miami, Florida, lots of Ohio's. North Carolina, Texas, Ohio, Maryland, Columbus, Mason, Eva. Oh, Montana, fantastic. Cincinnati, Michigan, great. Illinois, Minnesota, Virginia, Buffalo, sweet. Cleveland, very cool. Akron, nice. Philadelphia, awesome. We're all over the country today. That's super exciting. Great, well, it looks like we kind of leveled off with all the attendees that we're expecting, so I'm gonna move forward with what's next. Just wanted to welcome you all today. We are here to give you a little bit of an experience to understand honors, the honors experience inside the classroom. So my name is Caitlin James, I'm the Regional Recruitment Manager. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm based in San Diego, California, and I actually cover all of the West Coast. So it's afternoon for me while it might be evening for you. But we have admissions counselors all over, and just want you to know that you have one assigned to you as well. So just know that if you ever reach out to us, you do have someone that represents you. But if we could move forward to the next slide, just wanted to let you know that we will allow you to engage with us via the Q&A. So I'm going to turn off the chat now. So if you have any technical questions, you can still use that to ask any of the panelists. However, if you have questions to our group or our presenters, please use the Q&A to have any of those questions answered. We'll be answering them throughout the program today and maybe answering some of them live towards the end as well. All right, so with our next slide, please. So one thing I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this webinar today. So I just also wanted to make note, especially given light of all the current events, as members of The Ohio State University, we condemn Black racism and racism in all of its forms, and we are committed to engaging, interrupting, and dismantling institutionalized racist structures. So our mission is to prepare students to be leaders, engaged citizens, and called to man in supporting change. So if you're interested in learning more about that work, please go and visit our website at go.osu.edu/addressing racism. Next slide, please. So as I wanted to mention, we just want to welcome you here today to talk about inside the honors classroom. Of course, given everything going on with the COVID and coronavirus pandemic, we wish we could be in person, but we love coming to you in your own home for you to learn more about Ohio State. So just know that there's a couple of things that we're covering in today's webinar, or this evening's webinar. The University Honors Program, applying to the University Honors Program, the faculty experience, and then the student experience too. So we have a couple of guests that will come on throughout the program. So at this point, I'm going to welcome Carrie Mills, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about the Honors Program that we have here at Ohio State.
Great, thanks Caitlin. Good evening everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you're coming from. My name is Carrie Mills and I'm an assistant director at our Honors and Scholar Center. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I have been a Buckeye for 20 some years. I've been working at the university and I have both my degrees from here as well. So I'm happy to speak to you this evening about some of the benefits of our honors program. And then we're going to turn it over to Professor Brooke Morin and her students from the College of Engineering, and they'll spend the bulk of our time together giving you a closer look at our honors courses. And we'll also have some room at the end for questions. So here's our mission. We really exist to support intellectual and personal development of talented undergraduate students, challenging them within a rigorous academic environment and promoting the integration and curricular and co-curricular engagement. Our center facilitates impactful, rigorous, and unique opportunities for high achieving students that really further student success and involvement in what we call our goals. And these goals are high impact practices that we believe our honors and scholars students need to be successful at the university, in their communities, and in life after college. We believe the more experiences they have, the better off that they'll be. And so all of our programming and activities are structured around our set of goals. I'm not going to go through the goals. They're pretty self-explanatory. The only one that may trip you up a little bit is original inquiry, and that's encompasses research, and it also makes our acronym work. Okay, so we have two separate programs, our University Honors Program and our Ohio State Scholars Program, and it's really all about finding the right program and the right fit. Neither program is better or worse. The programs are different paths to the same destination, which is ultimately that Ohio State diploma. So this primary focus for honors is on the enhanced curricular experience inside the classrooms and laboratories. We challenge our honors students to push themselves to go farther in both depth and breadth of learning, and we expect that they are taking a rigorous curriculum, more rigorous than what they took in high school. The primary focus for scholars is on the enhanced co-curricular or extracurricular activities and experiences outside of the classroom, but still very academic in nature. Students are applying for one of 17 living learning communities centered around a particular theme or area of interest. Today we're going to focus on our honors program, but we wanted you to be aware that our scholars programs exist, and we'll talk a little bit about them when we talk about how to apply. So listed here are some of the benefits afforded to our honors students. Students must pursue a challenging curriculum as prescribed by their College of Enrollment. They need to engage in learning opportunities within the goals framework. Our students foster a sense of identity, community, and belonging as it relates to holistic wellness and diverse perspectives. And students utilize networks within the Ohio State and greater Columbus communities to develop and practice personal and professional skills. This includes your honors advisor who helps monitor your honors requirements, helps figure out who you want to be, and helps set you up for success. Our students are also given priority scheduling at the beginning of the university, and we do this because we require so much of them in the classroom, in the laboratories, that we need to give them the opportunity to enroll in the classes and the research that we require. Honors courses are not extra courses. They're enhanced, academically rigorous versions of courses required for students' majors. So typically honors courses are capped at small enrollments to foster meaningful engagement between the students and faculty, as well as to build community among the students. Students are not taking all honors courses all the time. Typically students take 1 or 2 honors courses a semester. And then honors courses on the student's transcript are designated with an H, but they aren't weighted any differently than non-honors courses, as some of your high school may weight your honors courses or your AP courses. In today's webinar, you'll hear much more about experiences in some of our honors courses from Professor Morin and her students. Research, or original inquiry, as we like to call it, enables honors students to contribute to the body of knowledge for their disciplines. All honors students are strongly encouraged, and most are required to complete an honors thesis. If the honors thesis is not required, then the college will have some sort of honors contract for students to ensure that they're taking a rigorous and appropriate curriculum. Honors students who successfully complete their 4-year honors curriculum and maintain a 3.4 GPA can graduate with honors. And honors students who successfully complete their honors thesis graduate with honors research distinction right on their diploma. There are 3 honors designated residence halls, and honors students are required to live in those halls or another approved university-sponsored learning community their first year of the program, unless they're commuting from home. Our students receive access to programming designed specifically for high-achieving students that tie directly to the academic success at Ohio State. They receive strong honors-focused community and a sense of tradition. And they receive a peer network of high-ability students who are successful in balancing involvement in academic and co-curricular activities. And access to the other honors students, making it easier to find students to go to class with and to form study groups. So our application process, foremost, it's most important for students to apply by November 15th, which is the university's early action deadline. While we will take applications up until February 1st, we do have the tendency to fill our class early, and priority consideration is given to students who follow that November 15th deadline. Students must make a choice on the Common Application and apply for either the Honors Program or the Scholars Program. After their choice, they must respond to our essay prompt, which is listed on the screen there. We don't see your application until you've been admitted for fall semester to the Columbus campus. So we are not reviewing you at the same time as you're being reviewed for admission. You're being reviewed for admission first. Once you're admitted to Columbus campus, then we'll start to review you for our honors program. There are also 2 points of entry into our honors program. So students can apply for honors as incoming freshmen through our Common Application, or any student, including our scholar students, can apply after 1 semester of Ohio State coursework, as long as they've taken a rigorous curriculum and have a GPA of a 3.4 or a 3.5, depending on their college of enrollment. After students been admitted to Columbus campus, then they undergo a competitive holistic review process for honors or scholars. And our competitive holistic review includes 4 areas. Academics, we're looking for students who took full advantage of the academic opportunities available at their high school, including things such as AP, IB, and post-secondary education. Students should be well prepared to participate in a rigorous honors and scholars curriculum at The Ohio State University. Extracurricular activities and work experiences. We're seeking students who demonstrate a variety of dedicated, sustained involvement and possess some leadership roles. We also look for students who have received unique recognition above and beyond traditional awards. On the essay question, we use the essay question to gain an understanding of the student that we're unable to obtain from elsewhere in the application to the university. So the student should also possess and demonstrate analytical and critical thinking skills. And lastly, we're looking for creativity and willingness to think beyond cliched answers and traditional structures. Finally, additional attributes. This category includes the applicant's skills and special abilities and talents at their personal and professional characteristics. Some examples of personal and professional characteristics include resiliency, integrity, motivation, and intellectual curiosity. We're also looking for students who have the ability and desire to contribute to and engage with a diverse campus community, which includes cultural, economic, racial, and geographic, to name a few. Our notification process, once students are admitted to Columbus campus, they will receive admittance to our honors program on a rolling basis between January and April. Students just need to pay their university acceptance fee by May 1st in order to participate in the program. There isn't a separate fee for the honors program. We do have one very prestigious scholarship and program for honors students called the Eminence Fellows Program and Scholarship. It's awarded through a separate application to our very top honors students. We have just 25 full cost of attendance to awards to distribute for 8 full-time semesters. And it's also a program in addition to a scholarship. The Eminence Fellows Program places a high regard on academic rigor, original inquiry, and service. We're looking for students who have been and who want to be challenged both academically and through dedicated involvement in giving back to the community, doing something they feel passionate about. The collaborative spirit of giving back is a real hallmark of the Eminence Fellows Program. Eminence Fellows contribute to the campus and local community through the development of a class service initiative. And this unique cohort-based service project fosters a collective effort at addressing a community issue or problem that is identified by the students themselves. To apply, students must apply to the university and indicate an interest in honors by the early action deadline of November 15th. Students must then complete and submit the Eminence application, which is a separate application, by November 23rd. We encourage all applicants with questions to visit our website, which is listed there. You'll find the application and more information about what we look for in our applicants. And then we're happy to answer any of your questions. We can be found via email, phone, or social media, so you can please contact us to find out more. This summer, we're also holding Zoom office hours with our current students, and they're waiting to talk with you and answer your questions. So the times and dates can be found on the front page of our website, and they really are just waiting there to answer your questions. So please make use of that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Brooke Morin.
Thank you, Carrie. Hi, I'm Brooke Morin, and I am here with Yiying and Sean and Peter. They're some of the students that I work with in the honors program in engineering. And we want to, as best as we can, take you into the honors classroom a little bit and give you an idea of what it might look like in one of our honors classrooms. Next slide, please. So if you think for a moment about what an honors classroom looks like, a lot of people will think of, chairs all in a line and looking at a blackboard and a professor standing in the front of the room writing on the blackboard and students taking notes and complicated equations. And one of the things that I want to get across today is that an honors classroom is a very engaging space, and it's a space where you work collaboratively with other people, you create innovative things, and these spaces are often designed to encourage this collaboration. So at the bottom right of the screen there, you can see a table with the chairs set up kind of in a circle around it to encourage collaboration between the students. And of course, I have to include that picture there that's on the lower left. Those are some former honors engineering students standing there with the robot from NASA doing an OHIO. So we have to do the little representation there. Next slide, please. So a little bit about me. I am Brooke Morin. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I have my bachelor's and master's degree from Ohio State, and I was an honors student myself. So I've been in your shoes trying to decide where to go and whether to enroll in the honors program. And I loved it, and I just never seemed to leave. And so now I'm an instructor for the Fundamentals of Engineering for Honors program. And and my email address is there if you have any questions about our program specifically. Next slide, please. So the first day that you walk into my honors classroom, and I want to note here that the honors classrooms across the university are not all going to look the same, but I want to give you a view into just one of those, and that is this first year engineering honors program. So you walk into our classroom on the first day and you have a high instructor to student ratio. The 36 students that we have in there is actually a little bit higher than your typical honors classroom, but what you don't see is that there is one instructor, 4 undergraduate teaching assistants who have just been in the same place as the students who are entering that classroom on the first day. They've been through the assignments, they've been through the projects, and they are current students. And so they're able to advise both in and out of the classroom in a way that instructors often can't. And we also have one graduate teaching associate who manages primarily the laboratory portion of the class. So you have an instructional team of 6 people for these 36 students. And we ensure that we learn every single student's name. In larger lecture classes, in the standard version of this course, there are 72 people instead of 36, and not quite the same level of support. And so the instructional time is shorter, there are more people. It's really hard to learn every single student's name. Whereas in this honors classroom, that's something we're allowed to do. And it helps students feel a little bit more like a person in the classroom instead of just a number or a grade. And so we really want to see our students as whole people, think about their life inside and out of the classroom. And one thing that I really want to emphasize throughout this is that even though we're an honors class and things might be a little more challenging, we really want to help students succeed. So a lot of you will have heard the old story of, you sit in the orientation and somebody says, look to your right, look to your left. Only one of you is going to graduate. And that is in no way our attitude as honors instructors. We really want to see you succeed in whatever that means for you. And then we've sat down, we're starting to learn your names, and before we leave class that first day, you will already have had an engineering design experience. You have to identify a problem, think about some potential solutions, pitch one of those solutions to your teammates, and then pitch it to the classroom. And so we don't spend the first day going over the syllabus, we spend the first day actually doing engineering design. Next slide, please. And then throughout the rest of the semester, we have daily activities. We do those individually and in groups. And the group work is a very important component of particularly our honors classes, in that we find it really important to feel that you can teach others, because you learn more when you're teaching other people than just learning something for yourself. We have hands-on laboratories where you're actually touching and feeling the equipment that you would be using as a future engineer. And there's an emphasis on teamwork and communication, because regardless of your field, that is something that employers are always looking for, is good teamwork and good communication. And our classroom is set up with a flipped approach. As honor students, you are very bright, and you don't need me to read slides to you during the entire time that we are in class. And so you can do the reading, watch some videos ahead of time, and then we can focus our time in the classroom on working with you one-on-one through the application assignments and really understanding the material with that high instructional team ratio that we discussed earlier. Next slide, please. Then the culmination of our first year engineering honors program is this cornerstone design. So your first year, you complete a very large design project. And then, you know, in your final year as an engineer, you'll complete another design project. So we kind of bookend it with these design projects. And because the honors classes are smaller and we have fewer honors students, we're able to do more involved projects. So for instance, we have a product design project, which is an autonomous robot. And with a lot of scaffolding and a lot of support, we actually hand you a robot controller and some tools, and then you make a robot from that. And so identifying materials, identifying potential design strategies. This is a robot that is able to move around the course entirely on its own without any sort of controller or anything like that. And so we go completely from concept to fully functioning prototype in a first year class, which is something that we can do because we have this smaller honors experience. And then we also have a research and development track for students who lean a little bit more that way than necessarily product design. And so real, cutting edge sorts of things, nanotechnology research, lab on a chip, microfluidics, things that you would not typically expect to be seeing in your first year that we can do in this honors program. Next slide, please. So I want to go over a few of the things that just makes this different than what you might experience in other classes. The transition from high school is often challenging for honors students. The format is a little bit different than sometimes what you're used to. The work can be a little bit more challenging than what you've experienced in high school. And as first year honors instructors, we are really passionate about coming alongside students who are going through major transitions and being there to help them understand what their place is on campus. As a smaller honors community, we're able to kind of make the very large campus feel just a little bit smaller, because you'll see the same people in this program in your engineering honors classes, and then your math honors classes, and then your physics honors classes. And so you start recognizing the same people, and all of a sudden this very large campus feels a little bit more manageable. We have very highly involved instructional staff who, like I said, get to know your names, and they are constantly attempting to become better educators. Lots of people doing research in education, really passionate about helping you learn. And the instructors and the TAs, especially the TAs, are really good at giving advice and experience on topics that are not just in class, but also beyond class. And with the increased instructional time and higher ratios, we have the space to be able to do that. We also find that in an honors class, you really start to create connections. You meet other students who have similar goals and interests to you. And so when you're in a classroom later on, where it's a standard lecture hall and there's, 100 people in there, you can recognize a few people and say, these are people that I, got along with in my first year honors class, and I know that they're gonna work really hard. And so maybe I wanna be on a team with them or go study with them. And you have faculty and TAs who are familiar with the campus resources and can point you in a direction, even if they're not the people who are able to help you with that specific issue. But you have, a variety of experience just in your instructional staff to be able to help you find whatever resources you need. Next slide, please. The material that we're going to cover is challenging in an honors course, which is exciting. By the time you're done with the course, by the end, you often look back and go, I have no idea how I got to here from where I was at the beginning. And the important thing is that we are providing the support and the scaffolding and the structure to make it possible so that it's challenging but not overwhelming. And in the end, the outcome is very rewarding, and many students point to the first year engineering design project as one of the most rewarding experiences in their undergraduate career. Your instructional staff know who you are, and as a result, are able to help you identify kind of your identity as a student. When I see the same 36 students every single day, I'm able to recognize when someone's having kind of an off day or just seem to be a little less engaged with this subject. And so we're able to come alongside and really help you identify what you're struggling with and what you want to do as a student. Next slide, please. One thing that we've done in our honors classroom that is particularly helpful is this weekly opportunity for feedback. So we ask all of our students to fill out a weekly anonymous journal, and it provides an opportunity both for self-reflection and also feedback to the instructional staff. And so we're able to share, perspectives of students that to each other, and then also we're able to hear what students are saying and make adjustments. I've had students say that, this lecture is going on a little bit too long, and I'll look at it and I'll say, yes, I think it is. And so it really gives this opportunity for us to be partners in your learning experience in a way that's really challenging in a very large classroom. And we have a lot of partnerships with sponsors in industry. We have one laboratory experience where sponsors come in from a company and run students through a mock product release. And it is a very rewarding experience, really feels like you're doing the thing that you're going to do when you get out into industry. And it also provides opportunities for your potential employers to interact with you in the classroom and for you to learn a little bit more about their company and for them to learn a little bit more about you. And so through these partnerships with sponsors, we're able to help students identify good internships and co-ops and potential placement after they get their degree at OSU. Next slide, please. So on this slide, I wanted to go over a few things about how you prepare for honors. So you can probably just click through the rest of these, Carrie, and I'll go through them. So I want you to be ready to be challenged, because it is going to be challenging, but we will support you to succeed and meet that challenge. I want you to be ready to work with others, because there will be teamwork. But the great thing is I still have friends that I met in my first year engineering honors experience. And I know that when my students start talking, they're going to tell you the same thing. You meet some great friends in the honors program. You need to be ready to engage with your instructor, because I'm going to get to know who you are, but it helps campus feel a little bit smaller because you know someone who knows how to point you in the right direction. And be ready to learn some new ways to study. It's going to be a little different than it was in high school, but those skills that you learn in these challenging honors courses will transfer well beyond academics into other areas of your life. Next slide, please. So at this point, I've been talking quite a bit, and so I know you really want to hear from honors students. So I'm going to hand things off right now to Yiying, who's going to tell you a little bit about himself.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Yang Huang. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am going to be a third year this autumn semester, and I'm a major in computer science and engineering. I'm also an undergrad TA for the Fundamentals of Engineering Honors Program. Some of my favorite things about the honors classrooms primarily would be the priority scheduling and the able to develop great studying skills and partners. As they mentioned earlier, honors, you get priority scheduling. And when I say priority, I mean like pretty far in advance. And this is definitely very beneficial for one thing. Oftentimes I'll find like myself having to change classes due to new information I learned, or just change in interest and stuff like that. And due to the big how much farther in advance you schedule, you have more time to adjust things before classes fill out. My best example for this is my freshman year. I was originally an electrical engineering major, and I scheduled for those classes. And then I decided to switch majors 2 weeks later. I switched my entire schedule, and I still scheduled all my classes before my friends in non-honors even got a chance to start scheduling. So that's one nice thing I like about the honors program. Another thing, as Professor Morin kind of mentioned earlier, was about the smaller classroom. And because of smaller classrooms, it's more easy to make friends, especially because, in a smaller room, you see, recognize the faces more easily, and then you'll see them in other classes, maybe in a dining hall or dorms, and you can develop bonds and friendships. I think pretty much most of my friends I've made in college are all honors students, people I've met in my honors classes. And then from making those friends, you study together. And in studying together, you develop good studying skills that help you prepare for the rigorous coursework that honors classes give you. And not only that, but when you take your regular classes, that might get a little more difficult, but you have that preparation to help you study for the much harder content. So that's some things about me. If you have any questions, just put in the Q&A. We'll answer them later. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Sean.
Hi, everybody. My pronouns are he, him, his. Oh, wait, I forgot to say my name. My name is Sean Messerly. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a fourth-year computer science and engineering student in the honors program here at OSU. And for those of you that are from Cleveland, I'm glad to see we have strong representation in the chat. So hopefully you guys will choose OSU. But I'll try to keep this brief and just talk a little bit about what honors has done for me. So when I was coming out of high school, my junior and senior years, I took a lot of AP courses. And I wasn't entirely sure how those would apply to OSU, but they actually ended up applying very well and set me up great to take, of my first 16 credit hours at OSU in my first semester, 15 of those were honors in math, physics, and engineering, respectively. And in those classes, I met tons of students who I still choose to work with in my current classes today. I still recognize faces from 3 years ago, and I say, you were in honors, you should probably be a good partner. So I like to work with people I recognize from that. Another thing we're going to keep harping on is the smaller classroom settings, usually less than 36 students, in most cases less than that even. And particularly, like Professor Morin was mentioning, in our engineering program, we have a great system in place that previous honors students help the current honors students transition both socially and in class to life in college, because I know, at least for in my case, it was very hard or I was scared I would feel like a number, right? There's so many people here at OSU, you feel like it can easily become a number. But our honors classes do a great job of making you feel like you're part of something meaningful. And then finally, the biggest thing I put on this slide is that I wasn't sure I'd actually be able to pursue a minor with honors coursework, but thankfully with the engineering honors program, at least, they incentivize you actually pursuing things outside of just your major. So I'm a computer science and engineering major, but I'm, interestingly enough, minoring in English, and I get a lot of weird eyebrow raises at that, but that's just a testament to how you can still fit in a minor and use some of those AP credits to give you room in your schedule to pursue a minor while you're here at OSU in the honors program. So that's about it for me. I'm going to hand it over to Peter now.
Hi, my name is Peter Schmitz. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a chemical and biomolecular engineering major. This is my 8th semester in the autumn, but I am a 5th-year senior. And I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from the honors classroom has been kind of the relationships and the job opportunities that all that's been previous to me has talked about, especially coming into Ohio State and you don't know a lot of people in your classes. The students in the honors classes become the people that you then see, like Sean was saying, in your classes, your major classes, your sophomore year, your junior year, and you start to form a really broad social network and a really strong, usually friendship with those people, and you keep that alive throughout all your years at Ohio State. And so that's been really useful. I also found out that I really, really love the environment that the honors classroom is. Just being involved with a bunch of really successful and motivated students is very rewarding. So I went and became a TA for the honors program, and that's been a way for me to continue my activity in the honors program. And like even Professor Marin was saying, you can get job opportunities. I was talking to a recruiter at a career fair, and he saw that I was part of the honors engineering program, and he had also been part of that program. So he knew people that I knew, and we kick it off, and that's how you get your foot in the door. And suddenly you have, a job interview, and then maybe even a job as a result of that. So that's kind of where the honors program can leave you once you're finally ready to graduate. You can actually get a lot of experience that's relevant and useful, and you can get these connections that are beneficial for what's past college. So that's all I've got to say, and I guess there's questions now. Somebody is going to take it over, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna, there's a question, at least one question, and please feel free, our attendees, to write more questions for our students in the Q&A. They'd be happy to answer some more questions. We have one question here that's for any of you students. How much more rigorous are honors classes compared to AP physics and math classes in high school?
It's been a while since I've taken some of those classes, but in my head, I would say an AP class in high school compares to the non-honors track of college, like a normal college. I mean, that's what it's trying to emulate.
Mm-hmm.
Yang, you got any?
Yeah, like I would agree. Yeah, I'm probably remember more as a third year. Well, pretty much all your college classes are going to be, in some sense, more difficult than your high school classes. But so I would say maybe so the difference between your AP classes and your regular classes in high school, that's kind of like if you put your normal college classes at the level of the AP difficulty and then take one more step up, that would be your honors classes.
Great.
But then as a result, you get more attention and help from the professors and TAs. And because of that, you can help gain the skills to overcome the extra difficulty in classes and coursework.
Great. That's a great point. Thank you. We don't have any other questions currently, but if people have questions, please feel free to put them in there. Our students are happy to stick around a little bit longer and answer some questions. Or if you have any questions for Professor Morin, I'm sure that she'd be willing to answer those questions as well.
Carrie, we actually have, it's not a question, but from Caitlin, she said if we have no questions, she'd love to hear more about the career fair and preparing / searching for internship process from the students.
Well, I guess starting out, I mean, it depends on what your major is, how involved you will be with a career fair or needing an internship or a co-op. But in engineering, it's pretty common that students will internship or co-op. And in the engineering honors program, we push students from the very first semester to get good at being at the career fair and to go to the career fair. And we try to set them up with opportunities. I guess, Professor Marin, you can talk about the P&G lab if you want, about those possibilities and things like that. But especially in the honors program, it gives you a little bit of a leg up early, and the earlier you get your leg up in these things, the better.
Yes, I will say that we have a lot of industry sponsors that work with our program. And I mean, in general, OSU obviously has some fantastic partnerships. And in our program, the partners that we work with are really excited to talk to our honors students because they see it as, getting in to talk to the best students first. And so we do have a company that comes in and hosts a lab for us, and they, want to see do I see something in one of these students that I should be watching for them if they put in an application? Or we have a lot of folks that sponsor the design build project, the robotics competition. And so they will come and they will watch and see how students have done with their design, how they respond to failure, all of these things that as an honor student, we will help support you to be able to do. And then they get really excited when they see, the amazing things that our students are able to design if we just give them a little bit of a push. Some really amazing things come out because we have really amazing students. And so I will say that it is typically very challenging for a first-year student to get an internship, particularly, and sometimes a co-op, but that having the little honors designation next to your name does not hurt. It does help a little bit to be able to, say that you went through the honors program.
Great, we do have another question. So how early in your undergraduate years can you start with research opportunities?
Pretty much from the start.
Yeah, so my friend, so specifically I know a lot about the honors engineering program, but my friend is in honors in the arts and sciences college. And I think it was his second semester here, so his spring semester of his freshman year, he reached out to a couple of the labs that were looking for underclassmen to work for research. And they replied pretty quickly, and he had an interview within a week. And by 2 weeks, he had already secured a position that he's held for the past 3 years. So you can definitely start researching as early as you can figure out what you want to do.
There, in the engineering program specifically during the second semester, there are some labs that will recruit students out of one of those classes because of the students that have come through, and that research lab in particular has kind of realized that the students who come from this class are so much better equipped than other students that they just work a lot better and more efficiently. So you can start pretty much immediately, and the honors program will help that a lot.
One thing I'll add is that labs and like groups, they're always looking to hire younger students, those with less experience, and then hire you, train you to do the jobs, and then keep you on for afterwards.
Great. Another question we have is what was your college search process like? If you can think back that far, I know you guys are older, but how many schools or factors, or how did you ultimately decide to come to Ohio State?
I can start this one. So,
Okay.
Like I said, I'm from Cleveland, so I wanted to be close to home, so that was one of the big factors for me. So I was primarily only looking within Ohio itself. And I looked at 3 different schools, and I had been accepted into all of the honors and scholars programs. But after looking at some of the opportunities that I saw that previous students got as a result of being in the honors and scholars programs here at OSU, I decided that that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to come here. And Columbus is a great city, so I wanted to make sure I had my chance to see what it's like.
Great.
My college search was a little bit smaller, probably. I looked at Ohio State and a couple other top schools in the state, like Case Western. I looked at Northwestern, which was the best school that I looked at, and I didn't make it in. And really, at the end of the day, I applied to a couple other schools and got in. But at the end of the day, I was really looking at cost, location. I wasn't so concerned with being at a school that has the top name recognition of the best academic institution. And what I kind of found out is that Ohio State may not have that name recognition, but it is probably one of the top academic institutions in the country. I mean, the engineering honors program here for freshmen is one of the most rigorous in the country. And that's probably the case for a lot of other programs too. So don't think to your head that Ohio State is your safety school, because it could be your primary school, and it's not as expensive as some of the other schools that may be on your list.
My story is not as interesting. I'm a Columbus native, so I basically grew up with the Ohio State mindset. I've been a Buckeye pretty much all my life, so that's mainly basically it.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Did any of you guys live in the honors residence halls, and could you talk about that a little bit?
Lincoln Tower, yeah.
Yeah, Lincoln Tower, good old Lincoln Tower.
Yeah, the honors residence halls are nice. I mean, like the dorms, okay, the quality of the dorms may not be the brand new dorms that you may see online if you Google how to say dorms, but the community is actually phenomenal. A lot of my friends and roommates all the way through college are people I lived with freshman year, totally random people that I lived with freshman year. So I really enjoyed my time in Lincoln Tower in the community way.
Great.
Yeah, I was in Taylor, which is on the north side. That's the north honors dorm. And it's set up a little differently. So Lincoln is usually around 12 to 16 people all in one big room.
I think they won't do 16 anymore. I think they just do 12.
Okay. So there's more people in a larger space. Taylor is more confined, but you get matched up with people that may have similar interests with you. At least that was the case for me. I was matched with somebody who's in data analytics, which is very similar to computer science, and we ended up being super good friends, and he's actually in the room next to me right now. So we're still friends and still hang out all the time, of course. And a lot of my friends that I met in those honors classes that I was talking about, I ended up learning that they lived in Taylor Tower from going down to the basement and doing work whenever I needed somebody to see. And there was always a face down there that I'm like, hey, you probably are in this class. Can you help me out with this? And then they're like, yeah. So there's a great community in these honors dorms. So if you can, I definitely recommend choosing one of them.
Great. Another question just came in. Is it hard to be in the honors program and be involved in time-consuming extracurricular activities? So what else are you guys involved in besides just the honors program?
So all three of us are TAs, undergrad TAs for the honors engineering program, and that takes up we basically attend class the same time as the students, so it's basically another class added onto our schedule, and yet all three of us have found ways to manage that with our own coursework. Peter,
I'll just say, there's another TA who does similar stuff to what we do, and she's also in the marching band here. So she is able to find time for her honors coursework, TAing, and marching band. So if that's not a testament to how you can do extracurricular work, then I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, it may take a while for you to be able to feel comfortable in your time management skills coming in, but it is not impossible to do. Like the OSU marching band is not a small commitment, and for people to be both in honors and an honors TA and in the OSU marching band, I mean, like there are enough hours in the day, so you will be fine.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I pretty much was going to say, nothing's impossible. You just have to find ways to manage that time. And you may not be successful at first, because time management is probably one of the hardest things you have to learn transitioning from high school to college. But, if you work hard enough, you'll be able to do it.
Great. And what recommendations do you guys have for getting to know professors, engaging with them? I mean, it sounds like it was pretty easy to get to know Professor Morin, but what about some of your other professors?
I actually have a good story here, because when I took chemistry, there wasn't like an honors chemistry yet. So I was in the 300-person lecture for chemistry, but I sat with my honors friends, and I sat, in the third row, maybe the second row. So I was like fairly close. And so when there was time, the professor can't interact with every student, but he can interact with the ones in the front rows who are working out problems during like a break in the lecture or something like that. So I got to know him. And then the next year, my sophomore year, I actually was invited to have lunch with him. And we talked about the iPad program that was being launched out. And this is before the iPad program was like public knowledge. So I actually was able to learn about that program and talk to the chem program through the professor, like in a way that was a fun conversation and just a nice conversation. And so like those kind of opportunities are available if you find them, honors or not, but they are definitely a lot easier to find if you are honors.
Great.
And I have a quick recommendation.
Sure.
Basically, every class I've ever attended, I try to sit in the first or second row, and it's not necessarily a hard and fast rule, or however you would say that, but it's a great way for the professor to see your face amongst the crowd as they look over. And then when you go into office hours, they'll like, oh, he smiles in the front row sometimes. He should have a good question. And then they get to know your name, and then it feels a lot more personal, and it helps you, like I said earlier, to feel less like a number and more like an individual.
Yeah, you also mentioned office hours, so just go to office hours if you have questions. If you want to hang out with your professor, they're probably a cool person. So,
and they probably want to see you too.
Yeah, I would say from the faculty perspective, having someone show up to office hours, you have no idea how many times I sit there in office hours and no one comes. And I don't know if there's a concern that it's burdensome, but that's why I set that time apart, is for students to come and talk to me, and I really want to help. And you'll find that the majority of instructors really want to help, and it's just sometimes hard to do if you don't know how to, you know, find the students who are struggling at that very moment. And so, you know, just coming to office hours, I've had students show up to office hours in the first week just to introduce themselves. And it's really nice to help me put a face to a name. I learn all the students' names, but those are definitely the names I learned first, are the ones who took the moment to come up and say, hi, this is my name. I'm really excited to take this class because of this thing, and it gives me something to kind of, that sticks them in my head. And so definitely it's as simple as introducing yourself and showing up to office hours within the first couple of weeks, and that those are the students that I learn about first.
Awesome. Great. And then last question, or one of the last questions maybe, as we're running short on time, is since we have students attending the webinar not from Columbus or even from Ohio, how have you interacted with the city of Columbus, and how has that really contributed to your OSU experience?
At least for me, the first thing I did when I got here after settling in was just walk around the campus, because I remember my first day at orientation, I was walking around with my mom, and we had no idea where we were. We maybe walked around the campus twice before we found the building that we were supposed to be in. So getting yourself familiar with campus is super nice, and it's beautiful, especially the Oval and other green spaces. So check that out. And then as soon as I had established a good group of friends, we would use our Buck IDs, which are the cards you'll get if you attend OSU, and you get free rides on the CODA bus, and they can take you right down to downtown, and you can see what downtown Columbus really is like, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, as a Columbus native, I will attest that while our city probably does not have as much recognition as Washington, D.C. or New York, we do have a lot of fun stuff here. You know, we have the best zoo in the world, no bias at all. The best science center in the world, also no bias at all. And also right now they're like renovating downtown. It looks super nice with all the new greenery and plants. So it's just like a really great city to just walk around and hang out. It's like a hidden gem.
Or if you don't like walking or it's too slow, I am a big runner and spend a lot of hours running around downtown. And that's how I really explore the city. I also like going to the symphony, and Ohio State has a partnership with the Columbus Performing Arts Society, and you can see every symphony for like $8 or something like that, or everything that's put on there. And so I did that with a bunch of friends that I met freshman year, and we bought the cards again sophomore year and junior year and senior year. So there's a lot of really easy ways to explore Columbus, and I've been very happy to have it be my home for 4 years now, almost 5.
Right. I think those are our questions. Thank you all for answering them and for giving us such a great insight into the honors classroom experience. I don't know if Caitlin has some parting words of wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, thank you all of our honors folks for joining us today, and students for volunteering your time to share with our prospective students what they could possibly expect. I know we really, in this virtual world, really want to take advantage of what you have to say, because us adults could say it time and time again, and it still doesn't stick. So really want to appreciate everything that you've had to offer. And so just a casual reminder that the application for Ohio State is open on the Common Application right now. So you can start creating your account and getting familiar with the process of how to submit your application. If you have any questions for us, please reach out to us at askadmissions@osu.edu. When you send us your email for any questions, you can also ask who your assigned admissions counselor is. If you provide us with a little location info, we'll be happy to get you in touch with that specific person. Our early action deadline for scholarships and for kind of early notification, if you will, typically is November 15th. Our final application deadline is February 1st, but make sure that when you're completing out the common application that you do answer the honors and scholars essay so you can be considered for those opportunities. So I always love an application review, also getting to review the honors and scholars essays too. It's always a really neat time just to see the perspective and to see what ideas you come up with and who you relate to and what character you identify with. Students get really creative with that, and that's super fun. So thank you all again for joining us. If you have any other questions, please let us know and we will be happy to assist you. Otherwise, we are going to say goodbye, turn off our cameras and kind of finish up our pieces, and then we hope to interact with you soon. Take care.